Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. Here's hoping you had a happy Salah holiday. Now, the housing deficit in Nigeria has surged from 14 million units in 2010 to a staggering 28 million units in 2022, marking a remarkable 100% increase. Now, alarming data from the Central Bank of Nigeria indicates that only 10% of Nigerians aspiring to own homes can afford to do so, underscoring the magnitude of this issue. As of 2023, the housing deficit required an estimated 21 trillion naira to rectify. Well, although this figure has experienced fluctuations throughout the year, but despite an estimated average cost of 750,000 naira per housing unit, considering factors like inflation and the socio-economic landscape, this valuation is likely overly optimistic. Tonight, Tuesday Live will explore some of the efforts being made by the Tinubu presidency to change the narrative and address the unstable future of housing. But before we go into the conversation, let's get to see this report put together by correspondent Francis Udojo.
Housing deficits and affordability are major issues in Nigeria as governments after another tried to resolve it. Inadequate funding and lack of accurate data to ascertain the number, category of people, and areas for adequate attention have been the challenge. The obsolete Land Use Act of 1978 and many other loopholes have caused setbacks in housing delivery. However, a ray of hope seems to have set in with the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu coming up with different policy implementation strategies to tackle the ugly scenario head-on. First was the separating of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development from that of Works to enable it stand alone to deliver its mandate of providing 100,000 housing units across the Federation. Determined to hit the ground running, Mr. President approved the sum of 126.5 billion naira being part of the 2023 budget and the 2024 supplementary budget for the housing project. To bring the initiative to fruition, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development was carved out of that of Works to enable it perform optimally. The implementation now starts with the Minister of Housing Ahmed Musa Dangiwa and the Minister of State for Housing Abdullahi Tijani Gwarzo as they take stock of abandoned projects since 2012 across the nation to ensure completion. A policy decision was also taken in Kaduna State for the review of the Land Use Act of 1978 to provide easy access to land as government plans to establish the National Land Use Commission. Also, 4 reforms task teams of experts, including housing institutions and that of multi-agency delivery task teams, were inaugurated to carry out specific functions in the housing delivery process. Federal government also signed an MOU with 3 consortiums and other private developers who will provide additional funding for the project. The result is the inauguration of a pilot stage of 3,112 renewed hope cities and estates at Karasana in Abuja. Work is ongoing as part of the 100,000 housing units project plan of this administration, and it is currently being implemented in some parts of the country.
The President was there, I told you graciously, he did the groundbreaking for the housing units, and he launched the renewed hope agenda of his administration on housing. And it's a PPP arrangement whereby we provided the enabling environment. The off-taker guarantee was given by the Federal Mortgage of Nigeria, and those developers were able, a consortium of developers were able to source funding using that guarantee and MOU have signed with them. Work is ongoing. It has gone very far. And our intention is that by November, we'll have to invite Mr. President to come and launch it. We'll have to ensure that a certain portion, 30 to 40% of those houses are cross-subsidized so that Nigerians, the low and medium income earners, also are included.
The Ministry of Housing had also launched a portal where all categories of persons could apply for available types of houses. With the new heads of Federal Housing Authority (FHA), Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria (FMBN) giving mandates to deliver, Nigerians can now access funds through the National Housing Fund, Cooperative Housing Development Loan with cross subsidies for low-income earners, and rent-to-own outlets.
For us, as the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, we're approaching this with a multiplicity of strategies. One of which is that we have looked at the possibilities around mortgage financing. And before you create mortgages, it presupposes that the houses will be existing.
In addition, the Tinubu administration has reviewed plan of establishing the National Social Housing Fund for the zero-income earners, as sources of funds are expected to be from philanthropic organizations and the likes. In Abuja, Francis Udojo.
All right, and that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's introduce our guests to you. We'd like to welcome to this program the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Musa Engiwa. Minister, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, Nigerians, and Barakah Sallah.
Right. We're also joined tonight by Festus Adebayo. He's a lawyer and Executive Director, Housing Development Advocacy Network. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Nigerians.
All right.
I'm pleased to be here.
Right. And joining us from our Enugu Network Center is Dr. Ugochukwu Chime, Chairman, Land Reform Task Team, Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. He's also a former chairman of the board, Enugu State Housing Development Corporation, and a past president, Real Estate Development Association of Nigeria, REDAN. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, thank you. We'll get to you. Well, this is NTA Tuesday Live. Well, as you know, at some point in time, we'll go interactive. And when it's that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedure. But for now, let's start off looking at the issues with regards to housing development in Nigeria. Well, Minister, the Tinubu administration has just marked its first year in office, with Nigerians having the opportunity to assess the various sectors and to see just how much the government has impacted on their lives. Let's come specifically to housing and find out from you, as a way of starting this conversation, just what are the steps, the practical steps that your ministry has taken to ensure the availability of decent housing and improving the living conditions of Nigerians generally across board?
Thank you very much. I can say that since inception of this administration, we have taken steps to ensure that under the renewed hope agenda of this current administration, we have increased the supply of housing into the citizens, and also to improve the living conditions of Nigerians. Under the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President, phase one of the project is to deliver up to 50,000 housing units across the country with various categories of houses that need to be done. We have the renewed hope cities that we intend to do, or we are doing currently, whereby 1,000 houses are to be delivered in each of the 6 geographical zones of the country, in 6 states, including Abuja, the 7 states. And we are also taking the renewed hope estates to be in the remaining 30 states of the Federation, whereby we have 500 housing units in each of the remaining 30 states of the Federation. So with this current budget, since 2023 supplementary budget, while we have over 100 billion naira was earmarked for that supplementary budget, we have selected at least 12 states, 2 in each geographical zone, to do the renewed hope estates. where we are delivering 250 housing units currently ongoing. And contract has been awarded, contractor has been mobilized in 12 states of the Federation, 2 in each of political zones. We have Oyo, Oshun, we have Ebonyi, Abia, we have Akwa Ibom and Delta. We also have Gombe and Yobe. We have Nasarawa and Benue, we have Katsina and Sokoto. And then for the cities, we are delivering at least 500 housing units in Kano currently. The groundbreaking has been done in 5 of those states. And we are continuing the groundbreaking by next week on the remaining 7 states in the in the southern part of the country. For the housing estate of these renewed hope estates, we are delivering the 250 housing units of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom housing units that are affordable. They are targeting the low and medium income earners of the society, whereby the houses are designed to be organic and to increase affordability, to ensure that there's affordability in it in such a way that 1 bedroom can be converted into 2 or 3 bedrooms depending on the income or the size of the family of that person, whoever acquired these houses. At the same time, we have made it easy for offtake. You have either to installmental payment or outright purchase, or through mortgage of up to 30 years at 6% interest rates through the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. At the same time, we have a rent-to-own option for those who need to do into that. These are for the renewed hope estate that we are doing. For the renewed hope cities, as I said, 1 per each geographical zones, we have taken at least 3 cities. Lagos, we are delivering 1,500. Contract has been awarded and contractors are already on site, funded by Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. Then we have the Kano, which will have 500 housing units. The groundbreaking has already taken place there. The Abuja, where we have 3,112 housing units, where Mr. President did the groundbreaking. The work is ongoing there. We are delivering 3,112 housing units of mixed houses, where we have bungalows. We don't have bungalows there, where we have a block of flats, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom block of flats. We also have terraces of 2, 3, or 4 bedroom housing units. These are meant to be cross-subsidized in such a way that 20 to 30% of these housing units will be cross-subsidized. The housing project in Abuja is a sort of a PPP arrangement, whereby we sign an MOU with some consortium of developers to deliver the 100,000 housing units across the country. We facilitated that through the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, providing the off-taker guarantee, and the Family Homes Fund funding portion of it, and the developers also pursuing the funding from other sources within the commercial banks to ensure that those houses are delivered for Nigerians. This is on the Renewed Hope agenda on housing development. We also have the Renewed Hope agenda on slum upgrade and urban renewal, to which we have selected 26 sites to be upgraded. The Renewed Hope agenda under the slum upgrade and urban renewal is to ensure that we improve the living conditions of Nigerians that are in slum areas. The 26 sites, we have 4 in each 6 geopolitical zone of the country, and then 2 from FCT. Even those ones, contract has been awarded and contractors are already on site and work is ongoing. Some of them have even completed some of their works. And for the Renewed Hope cities, we have done groundbreaking and contractors are already on site. These are some of the efforts the federal government is doing when it comes to housing and urban development.
All right, thank you so very much, and quite a comprehensive list you reeled out here, but we'll take a look at them in greater detail as we progress with this conversation. But let's turn to Mr. Festus Adebayo. And for you, would start off by asking you to take a cursory look at the housing landscape in Nigeria, particularly within this period, and say what has changed if you have the background of the huge deficit that we introduced at the start of this conversation, and what has changed in the last 1 year?
In the last 1 year, I can say clearly, as a civil society leader, we have critically looked at the performance of APC in the last 1 year. And we have come out with our report. To start with, we have commendation for Mr. President in the area of establishing a stay-alone federal ministry of housing and urban development. I remember meeting a minister some years ago who was the Minister for Works and Housing. And when he was introducing himself, he introduced himself as, he mentioned his name, and he said, I'm a bridge builder. I was very sad. What does that mean? What it means that the only thing the minister understands about works and housing is just to be building bridges. It is beyond that. As an advocacy group, civil society, we have been demanding for a stay-alone ministry of housing. You cannot bring housing, there's a big problem, and works, there's a big problem together. And I remember we suffered that during the first year of President Buhari, when he matched power, problem, works, problem, housing, problem. But when we kept shouting, he listened to us and separated them. So where we are commending President Bola Tinubu is in the area of starting by establishing a ministry, a full-fledged ministry of housing. I remember in 1999, when President Obasanjo was there, President Tinubu of Nigeria today did the same thing in Lagos by establishing a full-fledged ministry that will attend only to housing, and it's still there till today. So that's commendation. Beyond that, I do not know that I'm going to see the minister here. But we have also sent a commendation to Mr. President for choosing one of the professionals, respected one, in the housing industry to manage that stay-alone ministry. We have looked at his record when he was in Federal Mortgage Bank, where he displayed in high knowledge of demand side of housing and the supply side of housing. That skill is important. And having performed very well, we all who are stakeholders in the housing industry believe all that he deserves from us is to give him the total support. So we commend Mr. President when he appointed him. And I can tell you, 1 year is too small for me to say whether somebody have not done well, whether somebody have done well. But I can report to you here that Ahmed Dangiwa have done well. In fact, we have done a report of 10 performing ministers, and he came first. I remember somebody called me and said, first of all, how did you people get this result? And I said, man, during the first year that they appointed him, he established a committee, a reform committee. One on land reform. We all know land is a problem. Access to land. Give my driver a land. He will build 1 bedroom. When he get more money, we build another room, making it 2 bedroom. So land has been the barrier. He has set up a committee to look into that. Review how the problem of land problem will be affecting the demand side and the supply side. He did not end up there. He has also set up a committee to look into the area of building materials. And over here, he's telling us that building materials hub will be established in all the 6 political zones of this country. That will create jobs. That is commendable. So to us in the advocacy group, we see the first year as a year of laying foundation. We see the first 1 year as a year of planning. As we step into the second year, we hope to see the manifestation of all the groundwork, of all the planning, of all the decisions they've taken. So this is our position. As far as housing is concerned, housing is on the right path, despite the challenge of inflation, despite the microeconomic problem of the country. We believe with the commitment of the minister and the political will of the president to support that ministry should be able to make a difference.
Okay. Well, thank you for your views. Let's go back to our Enugu Network Center, and we hope that Dr. Ugochukwu, yes, there he is with us there. And you have held various positions, apart from being a president of the Real Estate Development Association of Nigeria. You've also chaired the board of the Enugu Housing and Urban Development Corporation. Now, you're part of a land reform task team. You're actually the chairman of that land reform task. And so that puts you in a very good position to assess the housing needs, both on the demand and supply side in the past, and what it's looking like in the last 1 year of this administration.
Thank you so much, Cyril. The reality on ground is that we have had a remarkable 1 year. In the past, most of the effort was at the product, building houses. But the surrounding socioeconomic environment and other factors that will make for a successful delivery in the housing sector were not being looked at. Previously, the concentration was on houses, without looking at some of the underlying factors like the land administration efficiency across the 38 land administration entities. We have 36 states, FCT, and then the Federal Ministry of Housing that administers all federal lands. So there are 38 of them. We saw over the years that every effort to build houses have met with some serious challenge in terms of land administration, either in terms of fiscal development policies or in terms of the other areas of titling, in terms of approval, in terms of deed of assignment and other products that are necessary for aligning the financial sector to the land, to the housing sector. And that is what we saw, that within the first 1 year, this administration, the minister underscored his experience by looking at this critical area. What they are doing in the land sector, in the land management sector, by instituting the land reform, is a game changer for everybody, whether you are on the construction side or you are on the mortgage side, whether you're on the demand side or the supply side. We discovered over the years, I've been in this sector for the past 40 years, getting to more than that. And I've discovered that many private sector financiers, multinational agencies that could have put in money into the sector were not willing to put the money because the land administration practice was a great hindrance to that efficiency that we have had them come in, bringing in the finance. So most of the time in the past, government have been concentrating on using government resources to be able to develop houses. But now we have a minister who understands the sector very well, who understands the linkages between efficiency in land management and success in housing delivery. Because when we get the land management very well aligned with the financial system of the country, you find out that funding will flow into the housing system from other sources, private sources, and the amount of money that is available in these sectors is more than 10 times what government can throw into the sector. So what he has done, basically, is to look at those areas, like some of the effort that have been done in the past, not just trying to change the Land Use Act in total, but trying to look at changing the Land Use Act, having the National Land Commission, and looking at some administrative and operational measures that the executive can initiate in conjunction with the states that will enable us to have reduced transaction time and transaction costs in the land management system. I can tell you, Cyril, that you can build a house in 5-6 months in some states, and it will take you 3 years to get the title. Build a house, 6 months, but it takes you as much as 3 years to get title to that land, or to get transfer, or to get any of the other processes and documents in place. And that is why we are very pleased with this Honorable Minister, Architect Ahmed Musa Dangiwa, and his colleagues in the ministry, for how they understood that for us to bring in the private sector finance that is available, we need to tweak the land management system across the whole nation in such a way that the land sector can be more profitable and be more a source for investment. It's a destination of choice for investors. And that is what we are having. There's a lot of excitement in the various areas in the financial sector that we are about to get it right. So there will be measure of public funding and private sector funding that will give Nigerians the houses they need. And let me say this, that the effort that is being done on the land management will produce results across other jurisdictions like agriculture, like finance, and other areas, because every development is on land, not just housing or residential housing, commercial housing, tourism, and every other thing. So what the ministry is doing through the Honorable Minister will affect other sectors of the economy. And it is doing a job that actually should be the major focus of the country. It will affect the agriculture also. So thank you so much.
Thanks for your opening comments, but let's return to Abuja now. With the minister here, it is known that over the years, Nigeria has suffered from the abandoned project syndrome. And housing is not exempt from this. And numerous housing projects under the National Housing Scheme are said to have been abandoned, and some remain unsold, some have deteriorated. These are assets that have over time depreciated in value. What's been done about this?
Well, quite well. When we came on board, we met a lot of this national housing program that some have been completed but remain unoccupied, and they started deteriorating. Some are not even completed, because when I came, I met that the previous administration has awarded over 6,000 housing construction within their tenure, but 3,000 have been completed but not occupied. So the first thing we did was that we advertised for expression of interest for any interested Nigerian who need those houses. And we gave options for purchase of the houses, either outright purchase for those who have money, or installmental payment for those who have to stagger their payment over a year or so. And for those who couldn't have the money to buy it, they can go for mortgage and even the rent to own. And with that advertisement, we were able to have an oversubscription for those 3,000 or 6,000 houses, including the uncompleted. We got over 9,000 subscription of people who needed those houses. So we're able to sort it out. Those who need mortgage, we send them to the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria to profile and then create the mortgage for them. And those who need outright purchase, we outrightly give them an offer. And many of them have started paying for those houses. The effect is that if you don't sell them outrightly, you will be left with the task of putting a lot of measures to ensure that they are safeguarded. And those are not being completed. The contractor abandoned the site because the money remaining on the project cannot be able to complete the projects. So with the budgetary allocation that we're having, if we have to now come back and say, let's finish those abandoned projects, it will consume the entire budget of the year. So we say we can sell them as is, so the people can buy them at whatever level they are, with subsidized rates, so that they can complete it. That's what we are able to do, and I think we are getting it right now. Many people are taking up, and we are taking off the burden of facility management to start looking over those houses, because any estate that we finished, the off-takers who are in the estates can create that facility management whereby they can take care of their buildings over there. So that's what we're able to do.
All right. Yes. In addition to the conversation in the studios, we also have a number of reports that speak to the issues. So let's take this one that is coming from Lagos.
The provision of infrastructural amenities is no doubt one of President Bola Tinubu-led administration renewed hope agenda priorities. Nigeria, with a population of over 240 million people, spread over a landmass of approximately 923,000 square kilometers, is bound to face housing deficits. All over, people are seen living in makeshift apartments in unauthorized areas. This worrisome situation shows that Nigeria's housing demand is about 10.71 million units, resulting in a housing deficit of between 22 to 28 million units.
Mass housing or housing development is not about the structure alone. The structures, that's the building, then the services, that's the facilities. So when you have the building, you also have the facility. And you know, housing development can be capital intensive. The initiative of the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development is good, it's worthwhile. I've heard the minister saying they're going to start in 6 states and that it will be extended to other states.
One can see clearly that the current administration has this as a focal point to produce mass housing.
President Tinubu's administration has also laid a solid foundation in provision of housing for Nigerians. The renewed Hope Agenda Housing Estate is targeted at addressing housing deficits in the country.
It's working very hard and laying foundation for a very solid, consolidated future for Nigeria. The ministry has set up about 4 committees. One is committee on land reform, another committee on project delivery, another committee on review of, I think, to create a building material hub.
With the formulation of a working policy by Federal Housing Authority and complementary role by relevant agents, respondents believe that the noticeable infrastructural and housing deficit in the country will soon be a thing of the past. In Lagos, Bolaji Akeem.
From Lagos, let's go over to Port Harcourt and get this report from there.
The absence of mortgage financing in Nigeria's housing sector has over the years been identified as one of the contributory factors increasing the number of housing deficits in the country. Thus, the plan by the renewed Hope Agenda to inject about 126.5 billion naira in funding for construction of housing units across Nigeria is seen as a commendable initiative.
This one coming up, I'm glad as a professional developer.
Housing development, no doubt, involves a number of stakeholders, issues of land acquisition, cost of building materials, conditions for accessing mortgage funds, and creating competition in the sector need to be reviewed.
This iron in particular is changing price. It's not funny. You can imagine like your customer, you supply something yesterday, and maybe the person called you to bring more of the material. You begin to change price.
90% of what we use in houses are imported, including and painfully rods. Before now, we have government rod steel companies like the Ajakuda Steel and the rest of them. By the time you import all our building materials through high exchange rate, only the very, very few of the very, very few can afford housing.
The only way is to create competition. The people move to the government building that they've subsidized and left your house empty. And if your house is empty for some time, you have no other chance or no other alternative than to bring down the price. They are called low-cost housing because government subsidize in those their properties.
While the federal government has flagged off its first phase of 100,000 housing units, here in Rivers State, the government is also developing 20,000 housing units for low-income earners. Laudable as this initiative may be, concerns are still high on affordability, especially for civil servants and other low-income earners.
It shouldn't be left in the hands of speculators. There is this provision for mortgage where you pay a little and it's spread over the years for somebody to own his or her own house. But such thing is not here.
Analysts are of the view that the states have key roles to play by way of addressing the delay in the issuance of certificate of occupancy, incidents of land grabbing, supporting the provision of mortgages to make this nationwide initiative a reality. In Port Harcourt, Kingsley Amajiri.
Affordability, that's a huge challenge that you have to deal with. And coupled with the fact that you have issues of the cost of building materials, and with runaway inflation, these are very serious matters that will and are affecting the housing sector. So from your point of view, Mr. Adebayo, what's the way out of this?
Yes, I've said to you on this program the great work that the ministry is doing under the leadership of the minister. But I see very big threats around him. And the biggest threat is the inflation. Another threat is cost of building materials. 80% of the building materials we are using are imported. Our thinking is always toward anything imported. So to address that problem, we must change our thinking. Our mentality must change. Somebody told me a few days ago that there's a particular bread they bring from abroad. That's what people in Lagos are buying. So anything foreign is what we go for.
Well, what's the biggest challenge with regards to that? And the question of importing the building materials. Is it that what you have, there's a shortfall in what you have produced locally is unable to meet the demands, or is it a matter of quality, or both?
I think if we encourage the local production, we have the capacity to produce quality products. The problem is we have that love for imported things. We have Nigeria Building and Road Research Institute and many other research institutions. We have many universities. We have many departments of architecture. We have many departments of building that have come up with various findings on how to build low-cost housing. I've been in this sector for over 28 years, and I've attended many workshops that have to do with low-cost housing. So why are we not using the low-cost housing we have? I remember some years ago I visited President Obasanjo in his house in Ota. Mr. President I met him in a house built with red brick. So what is wrong with red brick? The house built by my great-grandfather in the village is still there, taken over by my father. And as of now, the building is still there. So we need to change our thinking. If we don't change the thinking, the battle for Naira to stabilize cannot work. I've seen at this moment that the president, the CBN is battling with the economists to stabilize the economy. If the economy is not stabilized, the housing sector will not stabilize, because housing sector cannot exist on its own. So the need to battle to stabilize the economy, and all of us get involved in changing our thinking and begin to give some loyalty to our locally made in Nigeria, local building materials should be promoted. I have a program in Nigeria that I'm doing this year. Or any organization that comes from abroad, we're going to bring them together. We make them sign a MOU for us that they're going to domicile the local production of those building materials in Nigeria. And with that, we can create employment. Just as I said earlier, that the Ministry of Housing, while we appreciate them, they established a committee on building materials. And I read it from some of the reports of that committee, that they will establish building materials in Aba, in many places in the country, that will create employment for our people. But that we have high supply, job will be created, and then we will have no other option than to go for it. We must change our attitude. Buy foreign products, buy foreign Toyota, foreign anything that's not produced in Nigeria should be discouraged. The leadership must show the example. Our National Assembly members, some of them should lead by example. I also live in locally made houses, red brick houses. I think my honorable minister we also believe in the red brick house. So that is the way forward. The local building materials must be encouraged. There's no affordability because of the prices. No affordability because the mortgage system is not working. The interest rate for MCR is 26%. When you have 26% plus 10% from the bank, that is 36%. That is the barrier to the good work that the Ministry of Housing is doing. And the government, the federal government, must support them and see what waiver, what subsidy can be provided.
All right, Dr. Ogochukwu Chime in Enugu, being into Real Estate Development Association, what is the issue here with local building materials? When you have as high as 80% or more of these materials imported, it does follow that, the cost of building houses would be right through the roof, literally, pun unintended.
Thank you so much. The challenge is that of leadership, and that is what we are getting right now. If over the years a lot of the leadership were able to direct attention to the numerous available options using local building materials. We have NIBRI, we have other institutions. We have tiles produced in Nigeria. We have tiles being made in Abuja, we have one being made in Ajokuta. All over the whole country, we have even one being made here in Enugu. Those tiles have been tested and be of very high quality. And it is a general problem for all of us. Like the media ought to bring forward and let Nigerians know that a lot of tests have been done, and these building materials, locally produced building materials, are of such quality that they compete favorably with those ones that are produced outside this country. But that is not being done. And if for some it is not being done, many people do not know the advantages of having those building materials. Advocacy is needed, because over the period we've had the opportunity of going like even with hydroform, which is bricks and other elements. Nigerians need to be made to be aware of the cost effectiveness and the benefit they will get by using some of these building materials. And then again, I think it is important to realize that this is a new direction. Effort is being made to look at the building material hubs and be able to promote it. And it is the duty of institutions like NTA to create opportunities for people to get to know that there are available alternatives to the very high cost imported building material that we are currently using. It is also imperative for them to know that these ones are equally durable, sometimes even more durable than the imported ones, because some of the imported ones cannot be maintained easily by us, and they are not friendly to the environment, to the weather conditions in our country, compared to these locally produced ones. And it is this area of going into building material production hubs, bringing attention to the core issues that have been hindering our housing delivery mechanism. And let me go back again a little bit and let us know that across the country, we have a lot of people with dead assets. Assets do not have value in the financial system. If you build a house worth 150 million naira and there's no title from government, you cannot use that money, that house, to get a loan to develop yourself. Over the nations, across the other developed countries, the houses are very huge assets that can yield more assets and by being used to collateralize facilities. In Nigeria, if you build a house in your village, you build a house in an urban area that has no title, less than 5% of our urban land built houses have title in the country. And that is a problem, because at the end of the day, you discover, for instance, I heard the Honorable Minister mention the fact of 100 and something billion being available in the budget for him. I do know that the pension funds is over 16 trillion, but they cannot invest. And these are workers' money. These workers need houses, and they have 16 trillion they have saved, but the PENCOM cannot release this money unless there's an alignment of the financial system and the land management system through instruments like the modern mortgage and foreclosure law. Therefore, when we get some of these initiatives that the Honorable Minister and his team are putting into place, we will have some of these funds, like the pension funds, coming in. So instead of talking about 100 and something billion naira, 10% alone of that pension fund is available for us. The new PENCOM law that says 25% of retirement service accounts of the workers is available for investment in the housing sector. 25% of 16 trillion is 4 trillion. But we cannot access it until we're able to align properly the land management system to the financial system via titles and easy transfer, reduction in transaction time, reduction in transaction costs in the land management space. So what is being done now is a game changer. If we are able to get it right, that 4 trillion that is lying out there with the retirement service account, pension can flow into the housing sector, and in the process create employment, massive employment. So instead of talking about 100 and something, 250 billion naira from the budget, we can talk about 4 trillion that is available, and that is only from PENCOM. We also have other sources. So the challenge is what the minister was able to discover and begin to do non-financial activities that will lead to huge construction activities and employment generation in the country. And that is what I think that should be our focus. Look at the local building materials, look at how we can align the land management system and the financial system in order to make the housing sector to be a destination of choice for investors and for those who have all these financial resources like PENCOM and other institutions. And that, for me, is what I think he has gotten it right, and it will affect the generality of Nigerians. It will affect even the agricultural sector, because the titles to some of these farms can now be easily produced. And I think that we need to move forward and appreciate what he's doing, and appreciate that we are about to have a huge opportunity for massive investment in various sectors, because we get the land management system very efficient and aligned with the financial system.
Right. Well, staying with the matter of high cost of building materials, and the figures we have here are quite staggering. More than 80% of it being imported, and we're looking at the inflationary rate. I do know that at some point there was a big question over the cost of cement. It kept rising and rising. At some point, I do recall that the last program which you came on here on this network, we talked about the price of cement and what the government was doing in trying to stabilize that. How successful has that been?
Well, quite well. Last time when I was here, we spoke about the high cost of cement. The reason at that time was that the cement manufacturers realized that whenever there is increase in dollar or decrease in depreciation of naira and increase in dollar, they increase the cost of cement. And we kept on telling them, so I have to invite them and tell them that there is no way you can keep increasing the cost of cement because of rise in dollar. Because most of the material, or all of the material that we use in producing cement are locally produced. What has caused that? The only component they told us was that the diesel they use, the gas they used to buy, they are paying in foreign currency. And that gas is produced in Nigeria too. Now we have to engage the Minister of Gas, and I wrote a letter to him. I told him that he has to find a way of bringing that gas down for the manufacturer of cement to do it. Because it started rising. It reaches 9,000. By next week, we are thinking that it's going to reach up to 12,000. Even it has reached 12,000 at that time. But by engaging them, they are able to compel them to bring it down to 7,000. That's what they said. To which we told them, even at that 7,000, it's not acceptable. They have to bring it further down. So the engagement is still ongoing. To such an extent, we have set up a committee between the manufacturers and the association and the ministry, and even we are bringing the Minister of Industries and the Ministry of Works and Ministry of Works to ensure that we put chairs together and see that the manufacturers have stabilized the cement to the barest minimum.
Now, some have also spoken about creating a situation where more of the local materials would be utilized in building. Well, I know that Mr. Adebayo talked about brick houses, but again, this was also something we talked about, that if you look at the overall cost, they are not necessarily cheap. And what we're looking here is affordable housing using locally sourced materials, building materials and all that. Is that an option still?
Well, you find that quite well affordability is a hindrance of accessing housing in Nigeria, or to most of the workers or the citizens of the country. So from our own side, what we're able to do to ensure that the houses that we are building are subsidized in such a way that the specifications are reduced to the barest minimum, so that to have easy access into it. And the offtake of the houses are made very varied ones. We have an offtake where we have created a mortgage bank whereby you can go and access a 6-digit mortgage loan to pay over a period of 30 years, and there's a rent-to-own option. There's also the installmental payment, apart from the outright purchase. So this will enable off-takers, initial off-takers, to have easy access to these houses. Because people realize that to build houses, you have to have all the luxuries that a house deserves. But you can reduce some of those luxuries in order to have an access, initial access into it. That's why in our own designs, we did it organic designs, whereby it's a one-bedroom. If you can't afford it, you can buy one bedroom. then you increase it yourself over time as the family increases or your income increases. These are some of the options we did. Apart from the National Social Housing Program, which we are about to roll out into the country before the end of the year, the National Social Housing Program is whereby we want to create houses, at least for even the low income, to ensure that they have easy access to shelter, what they can call shelter to live in. This one, we have designed it in such a way that the source of funding could be from the budgetary allocations or the subsidy from the petroleum and even from the philanthropists. We have designed that and we're about to take it to the Federal Executive Council for approval before we take it to the National Assembly to enact the bill on that. And once that is done, even the no income will be able to afford a house of his own.
Is similar attention being given to the question of land administration? And because that, in fact, it all begins from there.
It all begins with access to land. Because ensuring easy, quick, and secure and cost-effective access to land is key to housing and economic development. Because most of the land we are having now is not easy to get. It's not fast enough to get. You can take months or years to get a CFO for your land. And once the governors who are the owners of this land, they need to realize that they need to make access to land easy, accessible, and cost-effective to get easy to land. Because it's a key to economic development. Currently, if you look at it from the statistics, 90%, over 90% of the land we have in Nigeria are not titled. Only 46% of the land in the country are titled. So we have over $300 billion debt capital that is lying without being accessed. What you mean by debt capital, you find that any land that you are able to secure it with a title, with a good title, it has become a commodity to which you can present to a bank and you get loan or access to funding for you to do your business or even to develop on it. But when that land remains untitled or unregistered, so it has become a source of, it's become a dead land, a dead capital, to which you cannot be able to even utilize it properly to increase the economic development of the country or even to improve your own economic status.
Well, while you carry out the advocacy which you so engage in, it's not just a question of looking at what the ministry has outlined, but you have specific suggestions and recommendations for addressing especially the question of land acquisition, access to land. And, well, you did talk about you being outraged at the fact that people prefer foreign materials. Are you pushing for something that compels those who are in the building industry, for instance, especially from the private sector, to make them use those materials?
Let me start by matters that have to do with the state governors. It will be difficult for us to have housing revolution in Nigeria without the active involvement of the state governors. I'll cite a good case for you. 5 years ago in Yobe, the state government involved in mass housing development. And at the end of the day, the cost of those houses came up at 7 million. The state government intervened and said the houses should be taken, to be sold to the civil servant. And the civil servant should take 50% and pay 50%. That the state government will pay 50%. That is a subsidy that my honorable minister is talking about. So they got a subsidy of 50%. That's an intervention. Now they had to pay 3.5 million for those houses per unit. Now at the end of the day, the governor also came back and said you paid the 3.5 for 10 years. Meaning, make it easier for them to access. These are the ideas I see in the honorable minister. And these are the ideas we are pushing. The state governors that are giving land, the minister doesn't have land. He has to talk to the state governor in Kano. He has to talk to the state governor in Kashina. He has to talk to the land issue has to do with concurrent. So on that note, our advocacy is centering now on the state government to let them know that, come, if you do more in the area of housing, the insecurity in your state will be reduced. Because once there's a housing project, someone will be employed.
Yes.
The carpenter, the bricklayer, even the one riding Okada, even the one selling food. So the multiplier effect of the housing will have effect in your state. But most of the state governors, when you ask how many CFO did they sign at the end of their tenure, 4 years, you will discover that it's not even up to 200. And then when you ask, you have given land to Ministry of Housing, or you have given land to FHA, or you have given land to Federal Mortgage Bank, you see the land is in the remote area.
Yes.
Real estate is location. Location is real estate. If they give you a land to build a house or give you a house in a place where you'll be spending huge amount of money on transport, you will not go there. So these are the issues. So the governors should please show more interest. That is where in HDAN, that is where we are putting our advocacy. Yesterday something happened. I would not like to mention the name of the state. Their houses that they sold was for 5 million. And we read it in Guardian newspaper that they have increased the price to 20 million. And the subscribers are shouting. And then we condemn the action. They come. What was the exchange rate of Naira when they gave you that money? So what is your state government doing if you cannot help these people to solve some problem around here? So that is what we are talking about. We have to do more in the area of the state governors. And then what of National Assembly? It is time that the National Assembly members begin to have their constituency project in low-cost housing. If you can see Dangote of this world doing road, we should also call on them to be doing CSR in low-cost housing. Nigeria is increasing geometrically, and we are producing houses not even at arithmetic level. So there's danger ahead unless the government pick interest. As I said, the economy is not stable. The inflation is threatening. When the cement is 10 naira today, tomorrow the cement will go to 15 naira. And the cement man will tell you, yes, I get all the product here locally, but the NEPA I'm paying for, I'm a band hay, and the threat of band hay is affecting my business. That is why I'm bringing that. So these are the issues. Government must for once pick more interest and support. They have started my conversation here this evening by commending the president for having a ministry of a stay-at-home ministry of housing. I commended Mr. President for appointing the man who is knowledgeable with solving the problem of housing as the minister. And I'm also using this moment to call on Mr. President and all the leaders in this country that Nigerians deserve to be housed. Mr. President said it. And I see that's a breakthrough. At the launching in February at Abuja here, Mr. President said, quote unquote, Nigerians deserve to be housed. So if Mr. President has said that, I think our problem has been half solved. So what remains is to walk the talk and give us the political will and assist us and use housing to arrest this problem on ground.
At this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we return, the conversation continues on addressing the housing deficit in the country. At that time, the phone lines will be open, and it means you can join in the conversation. We will also have a couple of more reports on the issues at stake. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly. Thanks for staying with us. The conversation has continued behind the scenes. It's extremely important. The question of housing is critical, really. And so expectedly, we've been having this conversation even as we took a break. But this segment here, we'd like to acquaint you once again with the procedure when the phone lines are open and you can call in and join in the conversation in the studio here. The numbers to call will be on your screen. Take advantage of those and call in. And we say this every Tuesday. If you're calling in and you get through, do us a favor. Turn down the volume of your TV set so we can avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we also encourage you to keep it straight and simple, short and simple, straight to the point, and not to bother too much about the greetings. Just a simple hello would do. So thanks for being with us, and let's see you keep those calls coming through. We'll start off with another of our reports, this time from Jigawa State.
Housing is universally accepted as the second most important essential human need, hence the bold step taken by the federal government in its renewed hope agenda to kickstart mass housing projects across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory is being welcomed as move to tackle housing deficit in the country. Successive governments in Nigeria, including Jigawa State, have over the years involved policies to provide mass housing for the populace, which experts say is apt and a commitment to fulfill one of the responsibilities as a government.
Yes, it is part of the duty of a responsible government to provide reasonable and decent housing for its people. Under the Nigerian Constitution 1999, as amended, it has made provision concerning to the right of citizens to be provided with adequate and decent shelter or housing under Section 16, subsection 2D of the Part 2.
I think as far back as maybe some 15 years back, the housing deficit in Nigeria was touted as being 17 million houses. So from the time that the national housing policy was formulated to now, I don't see how that gap has been reduced.
For a country whose population is growing at a rate of over 2.5% per year and an expected population growth of 400 million people by 2050, the idea of mass housing is no doubt a critical element of the socio-economic development of Nigeria.
The level of income of Nigerians is not in consonance with the mortgage regime in possession, because you can build houses, but getting the off-takers, especially within the working force, it's not easy. So I hope with this increase in the level of income of workers, maybe it will enhance their affordability.
This initiative and other efforts at the national and subnational levels, according to observers, will certainly raise Nigeria from its initial position as 130th out of 141 economies in the 2019 Global Competitive Index report for quality infrastructure facilities. From Dutse, Muhammad Musa Askira.
And our next report is from Anambra.
Research, according to the International Human Rights Commission, shows that over 28 million Nigerians lack access to decent and affordable housing. This position was re-echoed by the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, which claimed that the country has a 28 million housing gap, requiring 21 trillion naira to bridge the gap. Reasons for this, experts believe, ranges from exponential growth in population size, lack of an effective mortgage system, poor funding to poor housing policies, as well as high construction costs. To bridge the gap, the current administration, through its Renewed Hope Cities and Estate program, mapped out 50,000 housing units in the 6 geopolitical zones. In Anambra State, relevant authorities noted that the federal government, through the Federal Housing Authority, is at the verge of distributing low and medium-income houses for civil servants at Isiago in Oka South local government area of the state.
I can authoritatively tell you that we are partnering with the federal government in terms of building infrastructure. Recently, they wrote us to come and inspect what they had finished at the Isiago. That's also low-cost housing estate. And we were there, we are working with them to see how we will make that place better off and then have our people occupy those places.
Once Mr. Governor signs off on that, right? We are going to do an exchange with them, the way they call it, with FHA, and then hand over. They will start their own construction there. That's the kind of partnership also I believe you are making allusion to.
They added that the federal government is not alone in providing affordable and decent housing for the citizens, as the Anambra State Governor, Professor Charles Soludo, has keyed into the housing policy that is not only constructing new housing, but renovating existing ones, targeting all income brackets, with special emphasis on low-income earners under the sites and service arrangements.
Immediately I came into office, I noticed a file with a lot of dust on it. So what I did immediately was to, look at the file critically, and I noticed that Ministry of Housing was giving a certificate of occupancy for a largest part of land for the construction of civil servant quarters, as well as low-cost housing for a lot of the Anambra.
Presently, we have gone beyond the 3 functional housing estates to expand the scope to accommodate another 4. That is presently in top gear in terms of the development that are going on there. Say, for instance, one of the housing estates where we are doing some constructions presently, and massive construction of infrastructure, the provision of roads.
While describing housing as a critical index in measuring economic growth, stakeholders highlighted the need for subnational governments to partner with the federal government with the hope of bridging the housing gap at the state levels while promoting inclusive urban development. From Oka, Benson Osadebe.
All right, let's at this point go over to Dr. Ogochukwu Chime in Enugu Center. And just before we took a break and the last couple of reports, you heard Mr. Adebayo talk about the position and the role that states should play in this. Now, you have the benefit of having been a key player at the subnational level. You were with a state housing corporation. Give us an insight into how these things work out in the states and why it would seem that subnationals are not quick to key into projects like this, or sometimes they do not cooperate with federal authorities in bringing such programs to fruition.
Thank you so much, Cyril. I would like to say, I'm sure the Honorable Minister is listening, that part of the problem is with the federal government. If you continually give somebody money to develop a project and you finish building the houses in 6 months, in 1 year, and the person refuses to issue title to enable you create mortgages for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and next time you still give him money, you still put projects in that particular state, you are rewarding him for bad conduct. And that is what is happening across the country. We decide to invest our lean resources in some states that are not willing to do the correct thing. About 20 years ago, 22 years ago, the Federal Mortgage Bank decided to reduce the cost of construction loan to 10%. They decided to give Nigerians 6%. The states were supposed to match that effort towards affordability by giving access to land, by reducing the transaction cost, the cost of compliance and registration of those titles for this class of Nigerians. But they have not done that. What happened? Were they chartered by the federal government? They were not. So part of the things we are recommending is to insist and let the federal government know that anytime you are citing a project in a state, there should be some conditions attached to it. Mr. State Governor, you are going to do this A, B, C, D. We have reduced the cost of this. We have brought this project to your state. It's going to generate X number of employment for your people. It's going to add X number of amount to your IGR via payee taxes. It's going to increase the number of land ground rent you are collecting. In return for this, we are asking you to do A, B, C, D thing. So it is the rewarding of bad conduct by the federal government that is at the heart of the problem we are having over the whole country. The moment the federal government says we are not going to invest, we are going to direct the development finance institutions to stop investing in states unless they improve their land management, unless they're able to do A, B, C, D thing. Everybody wake up. They don't even need to do it immediately. They can tell the state this is what you need to do. In 2000, 24 years ago, I was a consultant and we replanned Jalingo and built 500 housing units. Reverend John Nyame gave those houses at 50% subsidy. The remaining 50% was sent to Federal Mortgage Bank, and he issued all the necessary titles in less than 1 month. I was a consultant, I did the survey, I did everything. So with that, if currently the last speaker of Taraba State House of Assembly was living in that estate, in my 6. So they are being rewarded for bad conduct. And the time the ministry, the federal government, Mr. President wakes up and says, no development finance institution will be able to invest in your state unless you are, these are the condition precedent. You are tying down money. This money was supposed to stay in your state for 2 years, but it has stayed for 6 months because of you. Other states, if you are able to give us the title, will create mortgages immediately. We finish those houses in 1 year. We don't get to have those titles created, executed in 3 years. So it is this reward for bad conduct by continuous citing projects in their states that makes them to feel they can hold the whole country to ransom. The moment you stop issuance of title, the moment you affect land management, you are affecting the whole economy, not just the housing sector. And it is high time that everybody realize that whoever is holding us by the jugular on efficiency in land management is holding the whole nation to ransom. And that is what we need to go to. Secondly, it's also important to know that 70% of Nigerians are youths under the age of 30. With that, many of them, over 99% of them, don't have houses. So we have huge potential in the sector to be able to create employment for our people. But we can't do that until we are able to get the land management system efficient. And that is at the hand of these governors, and we need to begin to address that challenge as a way to move forward in our economic development.
They say the more things change, the more they remain the same. And if we look back in history, as far back as the Second Republic in the Shagari era, we had issues like this. When there was a national housing project and some states gave land in forests, right deep into the forest areas, and the people were the losers here.
Yes.
And this is recurring in the year 2024. How do you deal with this?
Well, that's why, honestly, at this time around, we have to avoid that. At the inception, we wrote letters to all the 36 state governors requesting for a land. That land has to be accessible, has to be free, and it has to be secured with a title. And many state governors responded. Those who responded, we regard it as a first come, first serve. That's why we took 2 geopolitical zones. As a state governor that gave us a land, but without compensation, you'll find that when the developer comes to enter the land, the community will come up and say that they are not compensated, so they will stop the developer from going in. So we have that issue that we have to, there's one contractor, he has to go and pay the compensation. I told him, no, you are not supposed to pay that. Please move to another state. That's why I have to relocate him to another state. And then some states, some land, if they give it outside this location, whereby it's not accessible. They are thinking that if they take you to the obscure location, the federal government, as a government, will come and do access road up to that location. Not knowing that a state governor is supposed to do that access road, even to enhance accessibility for the project that is coming to the state. To develop 250 housing units, you are creating over 6,000 jobs for the citizens of those states. And all the money you are spending to develop these 250 housing units, you'll find that are spent within that, that state. You are creating jobs, you are creating employment, and they are increasing, you are triggering even some small businesses to spring up. So this is some of the issues that we went into. And at the end of it, even if you build, mortgages can be created, those who need mortgages. You will have problem whereby some states, it's very difficult to have consent to mortgage. And even if you get it, they give it at 10%. When I was in mortgage, we are giving mortgage at 6%. While I was in mortgage, we are giving mortgage at 6%, but the governors are giving consent to mortgage at 10%. So at the end of it, there is no even concessionary mortgage that you are getting. So these are the kind of things that we have always pleaded with state governors to be a key to ensure that there is quick, easy, and secure access to land, because that will trigger economic growth and even housing development.
Yes, Mr. Adebayo, still on the subject matter, when it comes to getting the subnationals, you heard Dr. Kuchime say there has to be a coming down hard on states that refuse to cooperate and who do not. And what he says, you shouldn't reward bad attitude. So what is the way forward?
I'm so pleased to hear the manner and the way the minister have been managing the challenges. We are aware of the problem. I remember about 3 weeks ago, we wrote to a particular state, having observed that there's no enabling environment for private developers. And you can see this minister now working with private sector. I've seen him in private estates, seeing them that they're doing very well, and he decided to associate with them, encourage them. That's the kind of minister for housing we are looking for. Now, when you get to some of the states, everything is commercialized. So they turn real estate, housing development as a way to generate internal revenue. And now here we are talking of affordable housing. When the developer pay you government money, left and right, create all sorts of bureaucracy that involve them to pay money, they will eventually transfer that money to the buyer. They are not going to carry it. And that's a big challenge. And that's why I started that our advocacy must go to the state government to key to what the federal government is doing. They should key to agenda of renewal. Nobody has reported them to me, but on our own we go from one state to the other and we see what is going on there. Let me tell you about this. Infrastructure. You give me a land. I'm waiting for the title. And the developer is working there. And now there's no access road to the place. And now you want the developer or the federal government to come and do that road. By the time they do that road, they carry the cost of that road on who? On the buyer. And that is the challenge. And how many roads is the federal government going to do in different states into the housing estates? That is why we are calling for the support. Real support, the political will from the parts of the state government. Let me tell you, if there's housing, there's a relationship between housing and productivity. If I sleep well and I come to the office, I will do well. There's a relationship between housing and health. If you provide decent, basic, small houses for your workers, the possibility that you spend so much in that year of malaria and all sorts of diseases, it will reduce. What of insecurity? A man that has site to go to as a bricklayer who have carried block from morning to evening, it will be difficult for him to go and do one chance in the night. He will have to go and rest to prepare for the second day. But if he has a hope that's going to own a house, he also has a hope to have a wife. By the time he has a wife and is expecting a baby, he will not go and join kidnapping. Because he will not want to waste his life. So all these things are the importance of housing. All over the world, housing has been used to solve economic problem because of its multiplier effect. And that is why we, as Housing Development Advocacy Network, we decided that as far as this present administration is concerned in the area of housing, the Ministry of Housing is concerned, we shall do all our best to give them the total support to ensure that they succeed. We needed separate ministry for housing. They've given us. And as they are doing housing, they are doing urban development. So we now find out that the challenge we are having, economy, the challenge we are having, state government, The challenge we are having, how to reorientate our people to see how we can patronize more of our locally produced building materials. I think we will get there. That is why I started my analysis of the one-year administration of Tinubu in the area of housing as excellent, with the new establishment, with the minister, and you can see what all the account the minister will be giving. I can inform you that as we enter into a new year, we will have better. The Reverend Shime mentioned about youth. The youth need to be provided for. We have started with student loan. They are young. With the student loan, if you also have an idea of first home owner scheme, and they have propensity, the hope that they can own a house, come, they will not japa. They want to remain. By the time they have a house on one street, they want to be involved in the management, the politics of that street. And therefore, they'll be interested in the politics of their country. Housing is key. That is why we have to support the ministry, and that's why we have to support President Tinubu in the area of housing. The state government must join. They must see the economic value that housing can bring to their state, especially in the area of economic development. And they should forget about using it to get money.
Okay, well, Minister, let's return to some of the institutions that will help deliver the mandate of this administration in terms of housing. I did say that we would look at some of them in detail and some of the activities and some of those steps you've taken. One of them, you said, task teams that have been established and all over the states, which are currently working towards this. It suggests, when you say a task team, it suggests that these are ad hoc committees which, what are the targets and how long are they going to be in before they are dissolved?
Well, we looked at the institutions that are under the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. We have two agencies, the major agencies, the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, the Federal Housing Authority. Of course, we have the Office of the Surveyor General of the Federation. They are all under the purview of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. We find a way, we have to set up two task teams to look at them. One, to look at the Housing Reform Task Team. We find Housing Institutions Reform Task Team. These are the institutions whereby we know that they need some reform in terms of their regulatory framework, the way they work, and some of the acts setting them up has gone obsolete. Like the FHA has been there since 1973, setting it up. What we want FHA to be doing now is different from when it was set up. When it was set up, it was being funded by federal government. Now it is no more funded by federal government to do all houses. But what we expect the federal FHA to do now, currently at this era, is for FHA to go to the capital market, raise bond, raise money, build houses with that, sell the houses, recoup the investment, pay the loan, and then even declare dividend to the nation or to the owners of that FHA. This is what we expect it to do. So, you have to now review the act setting it up and ensure that now it can optimize its own performance. Quite well, when they go and raise fund, the houses they will build, they may be higher, they may be costly, but they can find a way of ensuring they cross-subsidize and ensure the leverage on the land they are getting free from the state government and ensure that they subsidize some of their houses. So also the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, the act setting the NHF Act has become obsolete since 1992. The act setting of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria has been there since 1993. So all this act, the time I was there, I tried to go to National Assembly to repeal and reenact the act. And I got the backing of the National Assembly, both the reps and the Senate. They passed the bill, and it went to the president for accent, but it was declined due to some protests by some stakeholders. So I came back and looked at this, the reason for the declining. And I have to engage them again, and for them to see reason for the mortgage bank to move forward. The bank has been set up with a 5 million capital base. Now we need it to be scaled up to 500 billion capital base. Even that 500 billion is not that enough. So we did a framework for that, and that's what they want that committee to look at. how would they make the housing institutions to be in their optimal capacity? The next one is the multi-delivery agency, multi-delivery task team. FHA that is supposed to deliver more houses for the country are not delivering the number of units they are supposed to do. So we want to see how they can multiply their own stock into the nation and ensure that that's the two committees who have done, and that's the target we're seeing it. And they will soon finish. They have submitted their own initial report. We are waiting for the final report for us to go further on it.
All right.
Yeah.
We have our first caller tonight. We have Peter calling in from Asaba. Hello, Peter. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Siri.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. My name is Peter. Like I said, I'm calling from Asaba.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm a public servant. I work with the federal government, though parasata. I want to go straight because you say no daily dollar in this question. It's very important. I want to greet the analysts in the house. Mr. Minister now, thank you for the good job you're doing. But I want to ask a simple question. Like, I'm a federal staff, paramilitary, and a junior staff. All these programs, they are laudable. But how somebody like me will get access to these houses? I'm a family man with 4 children, level 7. The political processes to get all these things are so cumbersome. At the end of the day, all these houses will still go back to these politicians. I don't know if you understand me. Accessing these houses cannot come from us. I mean, we can't get it. How will you do it so that those who are supposed to get these houses will get it and make good use of it? I want to thank the other 2 gentlemen. Thank you for your good work, and please help us out. Those of us who are junior staff, who are supposed to get access to this, is what processes? Because politicians will still adjust these things at the end of the day. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, Peter. The Minister is here. He'll address it right away.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm happy that you came from Asaba. Asaba is one of the states that we are now building the 250 housing units that are 1, 2, and 3 bedroom housing units. The contractors are there on site. I think by next week I'll be in Asaba to do the groundbreaking for the continuation of those projects. The way to access it is that we have already launched a portal. It's a portal whereby with your phone you can be able to access that portal and then choose the house you want and choose the payment option you want. If you want outright purchase, you have the money, you choose that option, and then it will lead you to a bank whereby you start depositing the money, even if it is installmental payment. And if you need a mortgage, it will take you to where you need to create the mortgage through the Federal Mortgage of Nigeria at 6% to pay over a period of 30 years. For you, I'm sure it may not be up to 30 years because you are already on level 7. And then if you need a rental, you can even choose that. So through that portal, you can be able to access that and then get the houses that you want. These are some of the things we did. Previously, during the National Housing Program, which we have in Asaba, I was there last year, and I went there, I found that most of the houses in Asaba has been sold have been already subscribed by the Asaba or Delta State indigenous who have already taken of those houses. It's the state where we have oversubscription when we put it on newspapers. These are the kind of thing we do. And I'm sure with these houses we are doing at 1, 2, and 3 bedroom, you can be able to have access to acquire one of those houses. So I'll advise you to check the portal of Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, to which I'm sure we want to start even advertising it within a couple of weeks or so as to have it there.
All right.
Thank you.
Our next caller is from Kogi Abdurrahman. Go ahead, please. Hello, Abdurrahman.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes, go ahead with your question or comment.
Yes, my name is Sani Adoki Abdraman. I'm calling from Kogi State.
Yes.
I am a civil servant with Kogi State government. Please, I sincerely appreciate every one of you and the issue that is being discussed right now. I also wish that the managing director of Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria is in the house. I wish, but unfortunately he's not here because this question would have been directed to him. Like, we all want to have access to mortgage for our homes. Myself, I applied for home renovation loan. And as I speak to you, for more than 2 years, they didn't approve the loan. It was January this year that we are telling numbers, we got the approval. And since January till this time, I'm telling you, they have not disbursed the money. It's 1 million naira home renovation loan that was approved. But I kept wondering, why should that system be so slow? If you approve a loan for a civil servant, of course I'm a contributor to National Housing Fund.
Yeah.
I should have access to this loan. So why this punishment? My father's house that I needed to renovate kept on dilapidating. I was making calls to their branch office in Lokoja here, but all of these things, they didn't do anything. Up to even I called the headquarters, the customer care kept telling me that I should go to the branch office and make my case, that my file is still there. And we are told that the system has been even upgraded to internet banking, so which means it should be faster. But in this case, up to now, loan that was approved January, after 2 years, so I have not received disbursement. So I don't know how you can get this message across to the managing director of Federal Mortgage Bank to kindly help in quick disbursement of loan. At least I read it where it is stipulated that it should be within 6 months. So now, 2 years, an additional 6 months, the loan has not been disbursed. So the institution itself is also adding to the problem. So please, this is my issue.
All right.
And thank you very much.
Thank you, Abdurrahman. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sure the FMBN MD should be online, should be watching this program. If he's not watching, we'll ensure that he takes urgent action on this. But you need to know that after approval of the mortgage loan, the file will be returned to the state. The state will now write to the head of civil service of that state, who will now countersign and then and approve it, that you are a staff and he has undertaken that you'll be deducting your salary, 30% of your salary and paying the federal mortgage loan. Once that is not done, that's the reason why most of the delays are after receiving some of the award letters. A loan will be approved, but that response from the head of civil service will take longer time. But I'm not speaking on their behalf, but I know that these are the kind of things. That's why he said they told you to go to the branch and clarify. I'm sure if you had gone there, they would have told you similar issue. But all the same, we'll now direct Federal Mortgage Loan Nigeria to ensure that they fasten and then fast track their own processes to ensure that they reduce the bottlenecks for the citizens. Thank you.
Well, Minister, this brings us to the earlier thing we talked about, and that's the role of the subnationals in ensuring the success of this. If an approval, an award letter is granted, and when it gets back to the state, it begins to take this amount of time, then the whole essence is...
it's always like that, honestly speaking. You'll find that some of the branch managers have to even draft what he wants to be the head of service of that state to write. So he has to draft it, take it to them to put on their own letterhead, pen and paper, and sign, and then they return back, and then they continue processing the loan. It's always the problem with that. And some of the states, they refuse to even allow the workers to join the national NHF contributions. Or they will deduct the money without remitting that NHF contribution to them. And they are denying the citizens from accessing all the mortgage facilities that the Federal Mortgage of Nigeria is offering. We have the home renovation loan, there is individual construction loan, whereby with your title, you can go and get a loan to build your own houses by yourself incrementally. And then these are the kind of things that even getting title by the civil servants has become a problem. So if the state governors can give title to their citizens, they can afford Federal Mortgage of Nigeria with their own designs based on their own affordability. Even if it's a 3 million house, they can give you that loan once the land is titled, and then you build your own house incrementally. Thank you.
All right, well, let's hope that takes care of the issues that have been raised by Abdurrahman, who called in from Kogi. We still expect a number of calls to come through as we progress with this, but let me briefly return to the first caller. That's Peter, who called in from Asaba and said he was a junior staff and wanted to know. There was an aspect in his question which he raised, and that's ensuring that the whole process is not hijacked, he said, by politicians and political jobbers and things like that. That he would be wanting the minister to comment on.
Yeah, that's why I went ahead and told him that for him to see that we are transparent, we open that portal. And that portal will ensure that the time you enter that portal, you will not get out from that portal without getting your award letter, your offer letter. Once you enter the portal, you keep clicking and going from step to step. It will take your name, your age, your salary, where you work, your telephone number. Then it comes to tell you what are the houses you want, where is the location. Okay. If you are in Asaba, it will show you there is project in Asaba. Then you pick it. Then the different categories of houses will come within that portal for you to choose based on it. If you click 3-bedroom, with the information you have put, it will tell you can't afford it. Because you have already stated your own salary, your years of service, that means it can calculate the affordability and tell you that you can't afford it. Then you come back to 2-bedroom or 1-bedroom, depending on what you can. So we want to ensure that there is that, and we'll ensure that we become transparent, and so that all Nigerians have access to it.
Right. Now, you said Delta, for instance, was one of the places you had this program oversubscribed. Now, for areas where you have
for the National Housing Program that has been sold. So now we are embarking on this, the Renewed Hope Estate and Cities.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's still the same process that you would still have to go through with the sub-nationals in setting up these Renewed Hope cities. Now I'm asking, at the various platforms with which you can interact with the sub-nationals and the governors, how do you intend to go about this? Because if on one hand you're facing these challenges, what says that it won't automatically translate to the other projects you have?
Well, that's the essence of establishing the Land Reform Task Team, headed by Reverend Ogochime, who has just spoken.
Right.
Reverend Ogochime was able to now meet the Nigerian Governors Forum DG, Director General. And he was able, through that interface, I'm sure he will speak about it, how he was able to relate with the governors. What's important of meeting the governors is to let the governors know that the land reform aspect is basically for them, because they own the land, and is basically to assist their citizens and raise capital and ensure that some of the debt capital are reduced within their own states, and to ensure that there is easy access to land and streamline the land titling. These are the basic things that we are doing. And I'm sure with this land reform that we are doing, the state governors are getting at it. We intended to decentralize it into zones because there is always the leader of Northwest Governors Forum, Northeast Governors Forum, Southwest Governors Forum, Southwest Governors Forum. So that's the interaction now the task team are doing to ensure that they are meeting those kind of segments.
All right.
Thank you.
We have another caller, Latif, calling in from Abuja. Hello, Latif. Go ahead. We have another caller, Latif, calling in from Abuja.
Latif.
Good morning.
Latif from Abuja, go ahead.
Good morning.
Yes, go ahead, please, Latif.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, go ahead with a question or comment.
Yes, yes, my name is Latif.
Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Latif Lawan. I'm calling from Abuja here. Yes. Okay, I really appreciate the minister. Yes, honestly speaking. But I would have loved him if he can use his good office. Hello? Yeah. Hello?
Go ahead.
Latif, you're not speaking. We have so many other people on the line who want to get through. Right, okay. Maybe you'll have to call back later. Yes, Minister, there is a text that has come in from Ghana Amadou, also from Abuja, and this says the Renewed Hope City in Kasana is selling for 22,500,000 for 1 bedroom. And he's wondering, he says, this is said to be low cost. That could low cost really be 22,500,000? This is coming from Ghana Amadou
Yes.
in Abuja. 6 clarification on this. It's said to be, that's the Renewed Hope City Kasana, and he says 1 bedroom is going for 22,500,000 naira, and he's wondering if that is low cost.
Well, the Renewed Hope Cities in Karsana, as you remember, is a PPP arrangement, public-private partnership, whereby we sign an MOU with some developers. They source their money through commercial rates, and then we create the enabling environment for them. Quite well, we intend to have cross-subsidy. Cross-subsidy is in the sense that the houses could be, they look the same outside. You can finish them all outside, but inside they are half finished for you to come and finish the way you want to upgrade them. The 22.5 million is for the complete finished 1-bedroom houses that we are building in Karsana, that is under the public-private partnership. But other houses that the Federal Ministry of Housing are building could not be up to this amount, will not be up to this amount. So that is the
okay, but these ones then, so the ones been built by the ministry would not be
up to this amount.
To this 22.5 million.
Yes.
But this is under the PPP.
PPP arrangement whereby there is no government money.
So it's quite possible that you could even have it higher than this.
This one?
Yes, for a 1-bedroom.
No, this is the highest amount that they are going for it. Yes, the 1-bedroom. That's the highest amount they are going for it.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, if Ghana Ahmadu is listening, I hope that explains it, why it's 22.5 million for the 1-bedroom. It's the ones that have been built under the PPP. That of the ministry would not be as expensive as that. We have another caller from Abuja here. Hello, could you just introduce yourself and let's hear your question or comment.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hello?
Hello, go ahead.
Hello?
All right, you're on air, so just go ahead with your question and comment.
Okay, good evening.
Evening. Go ahead.
Mr. Cyril, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Just go ahead with the question or comment. We're running out of time.
Minister.
Right.
Good evening, Honorable Minister.
Thank you.
Okay, I applied for a housing loan.
Yes.
I don't know if you can hear me. I applied for a housing loan.
Yes.
And I was allocated, a 3-bedroom flat was allocated to me at New Cairo, Peninsula Hill.
Yeah.
But up to now, the application was being submitted at the Federal Mortgage Bank, and up to now, they have not paid or sent the money to the developers. And the developers are threatening to revoke the award the award letter for that flat.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we do as a civil servant? Because I don't know what we can do in this case.
Well,
that's my question, sir.
Okay, thank you. Usually you apply to the federal, the time you apply through a primary mortgage bank. That primary mortgage bank will now collect your applications and then send it to the federal mortgage bank to fund the purchase of the house. So the first thing you need to know is that there could be a problem with their primary mortgage bank. Either the primary mortgage bank has not processed and sent it to them, or it has not met some of the conditions of that. That is always the problem. Or even the primary mortgage bank has an issue to do with the procedures of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. That is always the case. So the need for you to find out from their PMB what was the problem. If it is the FMBN issue, then I'm sure then you can now take it up from there. But if it is the primary mortgage bank, you'll find the Federal Mortgage Bank will not be able to disburse that money to you, to your developer, through that. That is always the case.
All right. Okay. Okay, we have another caller from Kogi State. Just go ahead, please.
With this renewed agenda, is a very good idea. But what of we, the commoners, we the non-working class? Like me now, I'm a bricklayer on my own. I have 3 kids, 1 wife, with my mom living with me in a room. And I don't know how this can touch the commoners at least, so that we that doesn't benefit. I mean, just like we that are not of working class doesn't benefit from federal government or even the state government that is even close to us. So I don't know.
It's for the whole country.
I know my voice.
Citizens.
Even though I shout, I cry, my voice won't reach anywhere. So I don't know whether if you can see address on this radio station, so that maybe by hearing the government may decide to help. Understand? Not only palliative rice of this cup will be eaten. At least we need a very good shelter. At least.
Quite well. The federal government houses.
I pray for long life for Mr. President Bola.
Okay.
And I pray for long life.
Right. Thank you. The minister will just address that. You know,
the federal government houses being built over the country are not for civil servants, are not for public servants. They are for both the formal and informal sector, for the citizens of the country. Every Nigerian have to have access to it. It's a matter, that's why the portal is there for you to go in and then choose the option you want to buy. So it is not meant for government workers or for the public servants. It's meant for the whole citizens of the country. So I think that is the people should know that these houses are not meant for that. So all we want to let you know is that there is a portal that has been created for you to go in and then purchase it. One of those houses are located within your own state or location where you are. Thank you.
All right. So at this point in time, we'll be winding down for that. So let's go over to Dr. Ugochukwu Chime, who is in Enugu Network Center, and your closing comments as we wind down this program. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to appreciate the Honorable Minister for having the political will, like he mentioned, to ask the developer who was on the site that instead of paying compensation on behalf of the state government, they have to move to another state that is willing to fulfill their obligations concerning the projects. We know that more of it will come. It has never happened before in the ministry that a developer is asked to move to another side because there was a failure on the part of the responsibility of the subnationals. Nigerians should expect a holistic efficiency and improvement of the housing transaction dynamics, because not just the housing delivery, thousands of houses are being built, but more important than those houses, from my own perspective, is the fact that the enabling environment is being worked upon, whether it is the building material hub, whether it's the land reform process, whether it's the multi-agency task force. All these things are get to have a holistic unleashing of the potential that we have. Housing contributes 70% to the GDP, mortgage to the GDP of America, 30% to the GDP of South Africa. Nigeria is about 5%. So we have an opportunity to provide employment for our people, and through this holistic process that I've been engaged upon, I'm sure that we'll be able to get to the right track of moving forward. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Good, Chime. Thank you. Back here in Abuja, Mr. Festus Adebayo, in just 1 minute.
Yes,
roundup.
Well done to the President. Well done to the Honorable Minister. I can tell you the stakeholders are with him. And I can say here, I'm with him solidly.
All right.
And I can say, well done to him. And Nigerians should please have more patience. And please, federal government should recapitalize Federal Mortgage Bank.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Minister, you get the last word.
Well, thank you very much. So I want to confirm to Nigerians that we have ordered 3,000 houses in 12 states at 250 housing units, with the 500 housing we are having in Kano to make it 3,005. There is 1,500 that is being constructed in Lagos that makes it 5,000. With the Karsana of the which we facilitated 3,000. So by December, we are thinking that we are going to have over 8,000 houses for Nigerians to access, and more will be coming, because that we have a president that has that political will to ensure that housing sector is reformed.
Right.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so very much. And on this note, we'll leave the conversation here. And Minister, we would like to appreciate you for being here. It's your second time on Tuesday Live.
Yes.
And we thank you for coming. We hope to see you again in the future, because the matter of housing is critical. So we'll crave your indulgence to come again some other time.
Yes.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to Mr. Festus Adebayo. Thank you for being here. Also, thank you to Dr. Ugochukwu Chime. And also, thank you for all those who called in and for all those who stayed with us until this time. We appreciate you being part of this program. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.